Hope you're doing well. Today I'm drawing a 1970s, 80s style tattoo Grim Reaper in kind of a old Huck Spalding Flash style tattoo art brand, kind of that cheesy look, as you'll see, kind of like this old Flash, with just enough old school in them to, I'd say classify as old school, but this is kind of what my inspiration is. And I'm just starting out with the head. I don't draw a box when I draw skulls. I put the box in because I want you to think of the head a little differently for this video. It doesn't hurt to think of the head as a square with maybe half a tennis ball for his mouth, and that will give you, get you going on having the right planes, the frontal plane and then the side plane of the head. Because when you're drawing a skull in kind of this 3/4 turn, it looks best if you can work in a couple different planes, and it gives it more of a three-dimensional look. So that's what I'm trying to illustrate with the box, because you could fit the head into the box and it will roughly follow along those planes. I'm not saying draw a square, but with the tennis ball mouth, I want you to notice how the teeth will fall around the side of the mouth. And then they're out there, Foxy Reapers. Very nice pair of skulls. What'd you think of the last one? She was very cute, right? You'd just be surprised if I told you it's actually just a little model, a little resin model that a guy painted. Amazing paint job. Look at the ab detail. I don't know how he did it really, but that's what it looks like unpainted. To get it from that unpainted state to that finished, it's just terrific. Really terrific, whoever painted that. Anyway, my main focus for this Reaper is the skull. That is the focal point. So I'm focusing most of my effort on the skull. If I were drawing a figure, I would start with the midsection and work out everything, get all the features in and try and get it all proportionate. But because it's just a little skull Reaper with a cloak over a skull, I'm not as worried about as much about the rest of the body proportions. You'll see as I draw more. But this is the focal point. It's kind of everything to design, I would say. So you can see as I'm doing the teeth how I draw the line for the front of the mouth and then it wraps around. So I'm trying to show you a couple planes at the same time. Putting in the teeth, that's on the frontal plane, and if you can imagine, they're just turning around to the side plane to give it a little bit of that multi-plane look in the 3/4 turn. So I think you'll see when I'm done this Reaper that the head will look a little bigger than the rest. Unlike in a figure drawing, that might be concerning. That's why you'd want to draw the whole thing in at once and get all the proportions right. But with this guy, pretty straightforward. And if you stick around a little longer, I'll tell you actually a couple tips that make drawing Reapers like this a lot easier. Getting in all the other pieces to make it a nice, to simplify what actually looks complicated, but if you break it down, it's not as complicated as it looks. So after I've got the head in, I'll put in the Reaper stick, try and get the angle of the rest of the scythe. start throwing on the cloak. Just wraps around the head. That's why I put the whole head in, so it looks like that's actually, you know, a skull in there. Similar to my Indian skull, if you saw that video. And imagine this maybe a little like a, you know, a wireframe sculpture. Like I'm gonna put in some little pieces of the arms so that I kind of know where the underlying body of it is, but I'm not going to bother putting in the whole figure. I don't feel it's really necessary when the whole thing's cloaked, especially for a simple guy like this. So notice with the hands, I'm putting the knuckles right over the, like you don't have to always do it like this, but I'm going to kind of put the knuckles right over the handle portion. So basically draw just a rectangle on each and then come back with these other shapes, and it gets you a very basic hand that's a good starting point for your design. Electric eraser, which I highly recommend. The only reason I don't use it more is it burns through those little erasers like crazy. But it's a great eraser. Made in Japan. I find Japanese art materials to be, they're some of the best in the world, so if you're looking to buy something and it's made in Japan, it's probably quality. So now I'm just putting little arches over his little, you know, little stick arm that I made. Very simple. And that's going to be his cloak hanging down his sleeve. And at the end will be the, you know, sleeve opening where his hand comes out. Same thing, I'll put the sleeve opening in on the other hand. And you'll see where it goes over the bone, and that's his arm coming out. So that's kind of the, right there is the pretty much the nuts and bolts of this whole drawing. The rest is just details. So that everybody can draw. And then I just start embellishing on these simple shapes. Putting in little bone fingers. You'll see it more when I start putting in the pen, but I'm almost just putting in little hourglass shapes for fingers. I have a skeleton hand on my desk, so I'll constantly just look at that. Hope you guys are drawing lots, because practice is the way to just keep improving. Regular daily practice of drawing, copying, creating your own artworks. It's just, but whatever you're doing, just constantly putting the pen to paper, whatever your mediums are, just doing it as much as you can and having fun. And making drawing one of your daily simple pleasures. Like, these are difficult times we're going through, so if you can turn to drawing to be kind of an escape from your day-to-day, one where you don't put too much pressure on yourself and have a lot of fun doing it, then that will keep you drawing, and then you'll have more fun, and then you'll keep getting better because you're, you know, not putting too much pressure on yourself. And that brings me to what I want to have as kind of a drawing lesson for today, which I think is every bad drawing you do puts you that much closer to your good drawings. So if you've made a bad drawing, instead of getting down on yourself for it, think about that as just a stepping stone and say, hey, this is getting me closer to whatever my eventual goal is, which is drawings that I can look at and say, hey, I like that, you know? So every bad drawing you do, or drawing you're not satisfied with, is taking you closer to your goal. So pat yourself on your back for that. You accomplished your goal. So the crack on the top of his skull, I only put it in. He didn't need a crack on the top of his skull, but I put it in to try and give the head a little bit of, depth, to make it look round. And just a few, little bit of statuary I really like. Graveyards, muslins, those are really great. Amazing artists made those. Created those. That one's terrific. Joy to look at. So you see how the front of his face is one direction, and then what I'm trying to get is that turn down the other side where I have the box, right? And that's always in my mind when I'm drawing skulls in a 3/4 view, or any view actually, is how can I make it look not flat? How can I make it slightly turn? This isn't a realistic style, but if you could throw in little things like that, it'll give even, simple cartoonish drawings like this more dimension and a better look, to where it just looks a little better, So just like I said, little hourglass shapes, maybe tapering a little at the one end. Just wrapping around the little scythe handle. So just think of those little designs, that little, kind of putting in, they're not flames, but I'm putting in little, like broken, to give the look of kind of deteriorating drapery, I guess you could say, a deteriorating robe to the Reaper. So imagine you're just drawing little kind of flame points, and that kind of gives it the look you want. For this style of Reaper, that is. You can add as many of those, little jaggy edges, or as many or as little as you want. Like, lots of good Reapers don't have that. Some Reapers I draw don't have that. But as you draw more, you start to just, more Reapers, you start to just draw them the way you like. And they get easier like everything else. And have a little bit of fun with them, add some personal touches. Just little flames, little hot rod flames, kind of what we're drawing to a degree. Very similar. And just keep playing around with that until you find what looks good for you. A little bit of a cloudy background. Always looks nice. I hope you guys have been doing all right. 2020 has been a very difficult year for me, as it has been for everybody. Very, very difficult. But I haven't been making many videos lately, but I've been drawing more than I ever have. And I find that a nice mental break from, the worries of your life, right? Drawing can be a nice escape if you let it and take the pressure off yourself. It can be quite enjoyable. And always keep in mind that one proportion, which I think is the most important when drawing faces or skulls, is the eyes halfway down the head. Changes with different perspectives, I've said that before, but it's one that will never steer you wrong. Even with this guy, I see a lot of portraits and a ton of skulls where the eyes, there's not enough head, like upper forehead. It's probably 20-30% short. And even if the rest of the skull looks really great, it always gives an odd look to me. And I have trouble getting over the skull when I see that part of the, that proportion off. Really throws me. So I'm very sensitive to it, but it's something you want to keep in mind when you're drawing your own little skulls as well. So when I black out teeth, I'll just show you. This is a pretty wild chair made out of resin by Design Toscano, who make a lot of junky stuff, but that looks pretty cool. I'd seriously considered buying it, but I could not get over that flat head in the last picture. Front on, he looks great, but knowing that his head was flat like that would always bother me. So it's actually a blessing in disguise, because, I didn't really need a big Reaper chair, and let's be honest, it probably wasn't that comfortable, Pretty wild though. Whatever artist created that originally, it's pretty great. nice and flowing. Because it's already drawn in pencil, you can really roll with it and make it flow nice. Basically just tracing. So it's a good opportunity to smooth out any rough pencil lines. Coming in. Yeah, that's a very easy way to do the hands, is to just put that rectangle over the handle and then just work out from there with the little triangle going back toward the arm, a little triangular shape, trapezoidal shape actually. And it just gives it that slight bit of perspective that looks nice. And I said I'm doing little hourglassy type shapes, but no two are exactly the same. And that's kind of the key with these things. There's nothing's identical or symmetrical. And even perfectly symmetrical faces aren't entirely symmetrical in real life. So a little bit of variance to your drawings, a little bit of difference in everything gives it more character. And if you notice, the clouds on one side aren't exactly the same as the clouds on the other side. They don't start at the same spot. If I were to do it exactly the same, just mirror image, they look close, but they kind of just follow the form of the Reaper better. And that gives it a better look than something that's trying to be perfectly symmetrical. just a black ballpoint pen because it's just a little finer than the fine Sharpie, or extra fine Sharpie I was using, the smaller Sharpie. I used to always look at wood grain, like actually look at pictures of wood grain when I was doing wood grain, but now I don't really bother because I guess I've drawn it a few times. Just little swirls, maybe put in a little knot here and there, kind of like that, and then just keep swirling and just kind of get something that looks good. But you get the hang of it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just I knew in the back of my mind once it was colored in, you know, when the wood grain's not that important. It's this little head that was the most important thing, like I said before. That's where I put my most, when I was creating the design, that's where I put my most effort, because he's the focal point. Like, it looks like a lot going on in the end, but really it's his little head that is the key to this design. And that's what, you know, gives him his expression, gives him the character. You get that right, and then everything else is just kind of gravy, I'd say. It's a big Staedtler Mars plastic eraser. Very good eraser. I have a full, like a small, but full skeleton on my desk, drawing desk as well, so I glance it up, you know, in skulls of course, but I glance up at his, you know, the body just to get a rough idea what the part through the neck hole will look like, you know, but even then I'm not trying to make a realistic design. Like, I think for tattoo style, for this old school style, it's like the worst thing you can do is try and make it too realistic. But you know, I try and get the planes correct, and the proportions are more or less correct. Those are things that I don't deviate too far on, but you can deviate on those too. It's just my personal preference to kind of keep basic skull proportions and then have a little fun with it from there. Take care, guys. I'll see you real soon.